Better, you want to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better, I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable do. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
Another great horse racing weekend, and it's fun on this time of the year when we're on the road to the Kentucky Derby. And I was talking with Angela Herman yesterday. We talked about the Gulfstream races, and she made a good point. You sort of feel now, like after the Pegasus races, it's really like on to the Derby now. That's sort of like that unofficial wrap-up point of the year for some of the older horses. And now we start focusing in on every weekend. Like Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend, we'll have the Holy Bull and a focus on Gulfstream Park on Saturday with 5 graded stakes. Santa Anita has 4 graded stakes races. They have a Kentucky Derby prep race where no points will be awarded because there are 4 Bob Baffert runners in that field. And right now, none of those horses can actually gain points. So we have Matt DeSantis, we have the sniper Barry Spears, and we will have Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita best bets for Friday and Saturday for you. We'll get you set up for the big stable duel contest, and we'll get you primed and pumped for big racing this weekend. But before we get into all of the fun stuff and try to help make you some money, I wanted to talk a little bit about someone who recently has passed away in the last week. Barry, someone that you know, just was a Facebook friend of mine, someone that I knew a little bit on social media recently, a very young gentleman named Kerry Dupleix, I believe, just passed away last week, and it just came out of nowhere. I know that a lot of people probably watching this show were friends with him and probably interacted with him. I know that some of the years when I was working on TVG, I used to talk with him a lot more. He would post on some of my my questions or share some selections, and I know he was a member of kind of horse racing social media. So someone that you knew, we just wanted to share some thoughts about him before we get onto our show today.
Yeah, definitely a great, happy-go-lucky guy. He passed away of a heart attack a couple days ago. Horse racing is how I met him anyway. So, we had a lot of friends in common. We met each other. He basically moved down to Florida from New York, and that's where Chuck Simon kind of met him up in New York at Belmont and stuff like that. And he's just always loved racing, loves sports in general, and he's just an all-around great guy with some young kids, and my heart goes out to him and his family.
Sad stuff as a very, very young gentleman, and it's not easy for us to make a transition from talking about serious stuff like that back into horse racing, but we wanted to share a minute or two just to send some positive thoughts to him and his family, and to let the folks know, hey, Kerry, thank you for being a part of our lives too. And thank you for interacting with us. Everything that I've read and seen, just a super positive guy, and that everyone has really positive experiences just like Barry had with him. So good luck, Kerry. Hope you're cashing some tickets this weekend. I'm sure you're playing those races up there and having a nice time doing it. So let's see if we can have a couple winners in his honor this weekend, as we will have Gulfstream Park plays and Santa Anita plays for both Friday and for Saturday. And Matt, as we get set up for Gulfstream, and I have the past performances pulled up here, like always, with Daily Racing Form, drf.com. That's where we encourage everyone to head. Tell us, what kind of stable duel options do we have for today, for Friday, for Gulfstream and Santa Anita?
Well, for Gulfstream, we have 2 different options. We have a $10 contest with a maximum of 3 entries, $1,000 pot. So a nice little entryway into that. And then we also have a $50 double up contest where the top 40% of stables will double up and win $100. And so they have a 10 and a 50 at Gulfstream Park. And then at Santa Anita, they have a $20 maximum of 3 entry contest, $800 pot there. So that's the one at Santa Anita today. But I would be remiss if I did not mention that back from almost like the Undertaker, coming back from the casket, Sam Houston, baby, is back
On the menu.
Sam Houston is back on the menu. We can watch racing in Texas again, and there is a $5 top 10 contest this Friday at Sam Houston. So
Now-
if you were a fan of that track last year, it's finally back, and just wanted to give that a shout out.
I gotta, and I heard something now. And let me say, I love Sam Houston. I've worked with Sam Houston for the last 4 years, and I actually contacted them immediately just a few days ago, and we were talking about some back and forth.
Mhm.
I heard a rumor this morning that may be flipped
They're gonna
again.
pull the plug. Yeah, I
Might
heard
be pulled
too.
again on Sammy H. So we'll see in the next few days. I think it's still a fluid situation over the next few days. So that's why I was kind of waiting until maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week before we know more, because I do like, first off, if they're running and we can play them, I'm going to be firing away. We're going to be posting and stuff about Sam Houston, because I definitely love them. So stay tuned. And I want to make sure, because if they will be running more, they're going to change their schedule back too, because they had to change their schedule to accommodate the on track patrons, because in Texas there's no ADW wagering. You can only get live on track. So they had to change their entire schedule back in the day to try to get people out at the track when they were betting on the simulcast stuff already, because it was hard to get people out there at nighttime. So now I think they might have to change everything over the next few days. So this situation is going to be very fluid. Just keep monitoring that. And I promise you, anything Sam Houston related, you will hear from us. And
absolutely
we'll be firing away when we get the chance to play over at Sammy H with that low takeout and really good racing product. Today, let's start at Gulfstream Park. Let's start with Friday Gulfstream. And I'm actually going to get involved right off the bat in race number 1. I think you are too, Maddie, right?
Yeah, I got 2. So I want to hear you go first, because I'll kind of zig if you zag, and we might be on the same one together.
No zigs and zags.
Okay, well, we might be on the same one, because this is a horse that comes out of that race that we like.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Max Swagger comes out of that dude in Colorado race, where our guy Mooncat was 4th in that race. Came right back to win a maiden special weight. We're going to see Mooncat and Dude in Colorado both show up in a graded stakes race tomorrow at Gulfstream Park. Mooncat was 4th with some trouble, came back and won in his second start. Dude in Colorado, who won that race, he's a major player in the race too. Both of them are strong contenders. Heck, even Fort Wilderness, I gave out last week, he finished 3rd in a maiden special weight race in his first start on the turf. That's a strong race. We've already seen the race come back very, very live. Now, if you look at Max Swagger in here, so he debuts in that race, which we know is a strong race. And Max Swagger, I think, wanted to get on the turf, because Max Swagger has a couple of turf winning siblings like Champagne Ivy and Metro Pool right here. So I expect this horse to improve on the grass. He comes out of a strong race. He drops in class. And like my man Barry would say, we're getting the blinkers on. We're getting first-time Lasix. We're getting a total makeover package for a horse who just fired a bullet work on January the 27th. So now all of a sudden we have blinkers on, first-time Lasix, drops in class, gets to the turf where he's bred for the surface, where they wanted to get to the turf first time out. The race has come back very live, and the pedigree is good. I've got 5 or 6 reasons to like this horse at 5 or 6 to 1 in here, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything you said is what I had down in my notes. Absolutely love this horse as well. 6 to 1 on the morning line, only going to cost you that stable duel average of $5,000 for this particular horse. And those moves that you mentioned are all winning moves for Safi Joseph as well. The drop from maiden special weight to maiden claimer is a 35% win rate. Maiden second starts, 27% win rate. This is, a trainer who knows how to get them ready second time out. So really like this. The other thing I like is he's parked out at that 10 post, but you figure with the blinkers on, there's going to be more aggression out of the gate. The other thing I like is if you look, the 7, 8, and 9 horse to his inside are not particularly fast. So he's not going to have to contend with speed to his inside, like to his immediate inside, in terms of trying to cross and clear and maybe save some ground in this race. So like this 10 quite a bit. I will just give a shout out to the number 2 horse in this race as well. This is a Ralph Nix horse, light crude, and Ralph Nix is a little bit like Safi. This is a little bit of a trainer play of just a horse that's really dropping down in caliber from a maiden special weight 70 down to a maiden claimer 35. And Nix places horses really well. That's why he has a 38% win rate maiden second start. He, kind of can diagnose what's going on with the horse, put this horse in a better position to be successful. I just think this horse has, it has some ability. Like I said, Nix has been very successful with this sort of class drop over the last few years. And I think, came out of a much stronger race. And I think, like I said, Lionel Reyes also up on the mount. We saw Reyes actually over the weekend on Sunday hit the early pick 3 by himself. So this is a jockey who absolutely can roll when necessary, even during the championship meet. So thought the 2 was an interesting play at a little bit bigger of a price at 8-1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $3,000. But I think there's some definite live runners in this one.
That's the opener, where we have a couple for you today at Gulfstream Park, race number 1. I'll be looking in the 4th race, and then I believe both of you are in the 5th race. And then we'll go a little later on the card. So I'll move to race number 4 at Gulfstream Park. It is a 6 furlong maiden special weight on the dirt. Honestly, it's not a very strong maiden special weight race. As we take a look at the outside runner in here, because looking at most of this field, I'm just not impressed by what we've seen from them. Now, we have not a whole lot of speed in this race also, and I'm looking at 10 Extra, the number 7 on the outside. 10 Extra is a horse who's actually shown a little bit of ability in some of the races that we've seen, but it's nothing to write home about, but it just sort of looks like that kind of a race to me, honestly, where I'm not excited about much. The first-time starters could be live here, both the 1 a la carte, the 2 Dr. Kringle. They wouldn't shock me. But looking at the horses who have run, there's really no proven speed in this race at all. We have Jonas's Dream, who's shown route speed going a little longer, and with the blinkers on, I think they're going to try to be forwardly placed, but this horse isn't really a speed demon, and that speed came against maiden claimers. We have other first-time starters who we don't really know where they're going to be. Citizen Mac is not quick. Zakari was close up, and they weren't really going that fast at Woodbine on the synthetic. And then you have 10 Extra, who from the outside just might end up in a pretty nice spot here. He's going to be fit. That race at Turfway really was not bad at all last time out. He's gone longer a few times. I hope he can just end up in a good spot here. Second start off the long layoff. He didn't race from February to December, so I think he'll be a lot fitter in this spot. I like the fact that speed figure-wise was, right about what he would need, I think, for a race just like this. I think 10 Extra fits pretty well in what's not a strong maiden special weight race. It's just sort of like a process of elimination. I don't really love the rest of these. I think he's fit, and I think he's going to have a nice shot to get us some stable dual points, right? Hit the board in here, get us a nice finish, and at 12-1, he's only going to cost me $750 in my stable dual lineup. So 10 Extra, the number 7 in race number 4 today for my second of my 3 Gulfstream Friday plays. And I believe both of you have one in the next race, right? Race number 5. Yep. So Barry, why don't you talk to us about race number 5, who you were looking at in this 5th race? What do we have? Optional claiming Florida breds going long on the turf.
Yes, indeed. These races consistently produce pretty good prices, and they're always worth taking a shot. I ended up on number 3, Tamarindo.
Yeah.
And this horse is, it's kind of almost a Captain Obvious type play, because if you watch his last race, and I don't know if you can pull that up.
Yes, sir.
He was stuck on the way outside. He's the 12 in this race. He's the last horse to go on the gate, and he doesn't really break all that well. And I think they just tried something, and changed his tactics up a little bit because of the post. They were just
you kind of have to, right? What are you going to do? If he sits where he probably would have wanted to sit, he's to the outside of the 11. You know what I mean? Right. And he's going to end up being 4 or 5 wide in this race, and no better than he was there.
Yeah, I think they may have thought that might have been a little bit more taxing, and kind of almost conceded the race. It looks like, and the horse probably could have used, the experience anyway. Um, but I think that really affected him, because if you go forward to the stretch run, the horse finishes up pretty good. You see him in the kind of the middle of the
Yep.
screen there. He's a little bit, kind of in and out, but he finishes fast, and he's fifth, and it has him, 2.5 lengths out, which
And
is
just like honestly, a different sort of trip, he's second in this race, even
correct.
not having run all that well.
Right. Probably wasn't going to beat the winner, but um, I think he would have been really, really competitive in that spot. Now he draws the 3-hole. Should probably be closer to the pace, and I think there's enough speed in here to keep it honest, and this horse could just fall into a really good trip.
Tamarindo 6-1 on the morning line. This one will cost you 5,000 in your stable dual lineup, and that's the average that you need. We're trying to fill out a lineup of 10 horses on a $50,000 salary cap. So you're looking for horses right around this average. Tamarindo makes a ton of sense in here. They can be more forwardly placed in this race because they won't have to worry about being parked out wide. They can choose the tactics they want here. They can ride this horse to try to win this race and give them the best chance here. Tamarindo in race number 5. Who are you looking at in this one, Matt?
Wait,
Yeah, I'll
just so you know,
go
before
ahead.
Matt starts, I didn't turn off the lights in my house. I promise.
Oh, okay.
It's starting to rain, and it got really, really dark because I'm facing an open window. So
Oh, that's
now
great.
all that's dark, and I just
That's
have
so
the ring
great.
light.
That's
But
so great.
I'm sure it's gonna come back by the time
It'll-
we finish.
It'll come
Barry live streaming from a basement somewhere,
Yeah.
you know.
It was the old Motel 6 commercials.
They're doing
where
a
it's
seance to try to get the winners, man.
Tom Bodette, baby. Leave the light on for me over there, baby. So Gulfstream Park, the 6-1 shot, Tamarindo. Matt, talk to us about who you're looking at in this race.
Yeah, just right next door. Judge Judith at 12-1 on the morning line. Only going to cost you $750 on Stable Duel. This is a horse I really like. I feel like she was really coming into her own over the summer. Reeled off 3 straight wins at Tampa, Monmouth, and Colonial after breaking her maiden, and then went up and ran a $50,000 claimer up at Saratoga. Just came up a little short that day, and then went to the bench for 4 months. Came back on the Tapeta last time out and probably needed that one. Kathleen O'Connell, the trainer, is 18% win rate, second off the bench. Picks up Tyler Gaffleone on the turf, which I always like. And this is a horse that's 4 for 4 in the money at the distance today with 2 wins. I just think this horse is going to get, a forward trip, but doesn't need the lead. And what we've seen is that, and we talked about it last week when we were talking about the Pegasus, this turf holds up pretty well to front end speed. If you're in that kind of stalking trip, that's a pretty good spot to be in. I just feel like you can find some value with Judge Judith here for only $750, and seems like a really good horse that I think is getting a little bit of a jockey upgrade. And also I should point out, has always run against open company. First time running against state breds. So that's a move I think, Barry and I talk about a lot of, when you see a horse that's running against open company and then dropping into state bred, that's usually, a class relief a little bit, even if the level of races has been different.
Yeah, people will see the level sometimes and
Yep.
think like, oh, I'm moving up in class or moving down in class, and not necessarily realize you're moving from an open company situation to a Florida bred situation like this, which will be some class relief for the number 4, Judge Judith. Couple nice price possibilities for you. 6-1 and 12-1 to throw into your stable dual lineups or in your pick 4s or pick 5s as we continue to race number 8. That's my next play. And then I think the both of you, or I think Barry's going to close us out in race number 9.
Bail out Barry.
Bail out Barry, baby.
All we gotta do.
And then we'll head over to Santa Anita. Oh, just a shout out too, because any chance that I can do this, we know who's doing the halftime show next week, right, fellas? Rihanna.
Yes.
And here
we go.
Like I mentioned last week, one of my favorite things to do is to play that halftime show with the way that it's going to set up and the songs and the order of everything.
Yeah.
We nailed it last year. I hit it a couple years ago really well with Katy Perry when she was doing it at halftime. The only thing that sort of stinks is that I mean, I'm pretty convinced that Umbrella is going to be the last
Yes.
song because of all of the, with the props and stuff. You can do a lot of fun stuff with Umbrella, have stuff raining down, all sorts of things. I've seen it at plus 350 and like 3-1 or so, which is actually the favorite, but still decent money. And I'm like convinced that that's going to be the one. So about a week out.
I gotta believe that you have some sort of inside information to be hitting these things.
I watched a lot of the sets on YouTube. Like I'll go and look at the concert sets and just sort of see.
You're looking at past performances.
Past performances,
exactly.
right?
PPs.
Exactly. Like, race
see?
replays and PPs, right? Exactly.
I
So
got you.
watch the replays. I like to see where they go, where they start, and most of the time, anything dealing with the props is usually at the end because then they don't want to have to worry about like the prop handoffs and complete like huge set changes. So I feel like a little tease as we'll continue to do the research throughout the week. But right now I'm leaning to Umbrella to close it out. And you know what? If it's 3-1 or 7-2 at a chalk, that's still a fine chalk price for me. Umbrella. Let's finish it up for me, fellas, at Gulfstream on Friday. I was extremely impressed with the debut race from this runner in race number 8. They're going to be going long on the turf here. So this is not an easy spot for a horse in their second career start. But look at what the 7 Hoku did in the career debut. Going long at Tampa, first time out of the box, which is never easy to do. Like to win long on the turf, first time out, not easy. We're watching the number 10 in here. So this horse does it from post 10 in the career debut at 18-1, wins. And when you watch the way this horse wins, it's honestly like he was favored in this race. He takes back from post 10. And when you're looking at how he was handled in this race by Morales, it looks like a horse who's run a bunch. This is the end of his 3-year-old year. So he's, a little bit more mature than just a 2-year-old. He's going to be making his first start now at 4. But look at the 10. He sits 5th in this race, about, 4 lengths off or so, in a nice spot. And as soon as he's asked and they press the button on him, he just absolutely explodes. He tips wide and then he kind of moves in between horses. So you'll see that in the yellow, he starts to go right now. And again, whenever I see a horse win long, first time out, I'm going to keep an eye on them. He splits horses and he could have got into some traffic right here. It looks like he's about to get into some traffic right here. Then all of a sudden, boom, he hits this hole and he's able to move through and just explode on this field. And you could tell he's kind of green too. Like they're still sort of figuring him out. They tip him out 3 wide and he blows right on by. And it just does not look like an 18-1 shot winning a race right here. He puts this field away and then just draws off. It's like, whoa, even right there. Like he's green, he's shifting around. But I think there's even more upside with this horse. Again, this is a lot to ask of him. Second time out, he's going to be facing a bunch of horses with more experience. He's spotting this field a whole ton, but there is definitely some ability here with this horse, Hoku, who caught my attention, and I'll be throwing him in all exotics. He is 6-1 on the morning line. He earned a big speed figure first time out of the box, and he'll try to go even farther here in his second start. Hoku, the number 7, 6-1, right on that stable dual average that we need as they travel 1.5 miles in the 8th race at Gulfstream. So Barry, close us out on Friday, my friend, in race number 9. Who's going to get in the winner's circle in this 9th race?
Yeah, I'm going to throw one downfield. This is a maiden, $35,000 maiden claimer, going 5.5 on the synthetic. And I'm going to end up on number 8, Cecilia's Wings.
We got a scratch.
That one scratched?
Just recently. Yeah, it must have just popped up a second ago. We would have had a big 20-1 shot, Cecilia's Wings, who is now out. At least we
put that one in the stable mail.
Put him in the stable mail.
Yeah,
for next time.
Especially if this horse shows up again at a 5.5 on the synthetic at this same level. Anything higher, no go.
Cecilia's Wings. Let's keep an eye on this one when she shows back up, as she is scratched out of the Friday card at Gulfstream Park. So that
Ooh.
will finish up Friday for Gulfstream. At least we found out before we got all the good stuff out there, and you wasted like another minute of your precious, beautiful voice over there. You know what I'm saying?
There's
trying to sip on some tea so I can sing later.
There is nothing more demoralizing than like we'll go through, especially like Friday at Gulfstream, like because we go through them first and we're like giving out picks and we get
they're
down
off
to
the
show, and then they're either off the turf or like then I go to load up my actual stable and I'm like, oh shit, these three.
I know. I will
Man.
tell you, for someone who comes off smiley and happy quite a bit, if you heard my responses some of the days when like a Louisiana or a Sam Houston got canceled after I've done all the full card work and then put up a segment and I'm ready and the F-bombs start flying. I throw stuff. My poor son, one of the things that he's picked up from hearing me watch races, which is not great because he's like in the like pick up everything you say, is just he heard me like either last week or one of them when I was like on the lead and I just got nailed and it's like, oh God, please no. And my son screams that now. Like he thinks it's funny. He'll be watching something and he goes, oh God, please no. And he just like says it to me and I can hear myself and I could see myself watching the race. And I just remember like that moment. And I'm just like, you little shit,
I have to give a very funny aside. So my dad is a lot like Clark Griswold in Christmas Vacation movies. He believes in big family vacations. When I was 22, my brother and sister were 6 and 8 years old. They're a lot younger than me. We took a 42-day cross-country trip in a minivan out west. Okay. Day like 30. We're driving. Some guy cuts me off. I'm driving and some guy cuts me off and my dad in the passenger seat goes, what a jackass. And my brother, without fail, is 6 years old, looks across the back seat at his sister and goes, yeah, well, I'm looking at a jackass.
Oh,
and just everybody starts dying laughing. My stepmom's trying to reprimand him. Sarah's crying. My dad and I are in the front seat laughing. It's good times. But yeah, when they're that age, they just pick up anything and just go with it.
That's a guaranteed easy thing in any comedy, right? I was watching an episode of Modern Family the other day. The little girl says the F-bomb. You know, everyone's going to laugh. It's simple. It's a formula that works. You know what I mean? You can just go back to it every time if you want. Like and little kid cussing. My brother's
had good comic timing since he was a little kid, and that's how he gets away with so much crap.
It puts butts in the seats. Little kids cussing, butts in the seats. As we move to Santa Anita for Friday. So Santa Anita Friday card. I'm going to have 3 plays today at Santa Anita for Friday. Looks like Barry's got a couple at the back end of the card in races 7 and 8, and Maddie has a couple in races 5 and 7. So I'll dive into Santa Anita in race number 4, which is a 6 furlong turf race. It's a $32,000 non-winners of 2. And I'm going to look at the number 7 in here, Super Renee. Now, I think with Super Renee, we can just isolate the turf races. All 4 of them are pretty good, honestly. But the ones in particular that I like are the 2 turf sprints. Both races going 6 furlongs on the turf. Both result in runner-up finishes. One of them to a next out winner. And then the rest of the career, it's not bad at all. It's all really like makes sense. We've talked about this all the time. When you go race by race, this is a horse who's been in the money in 6 of 8. This is a horse whose 2 turf sprints are very, very good. And a horse who's recently, since breaking the maiden, faced a little bit tougher. Optional 50s and then a 50 starter allowance. Now is in for 32, gets back to 6 furlongs, and I think should be forwardly placed in here and just give you a really good account of herself. That's the number 7, Super Renee, who is 6-1 on the morning line. A lot of 6-1 shots today. That's right in that $5,000 stable duel price range that we need. And I feel like Super Renee gets a really nice trip in here, forwardly placed. A good start to the meet for Mike Smith, too, which, you know what? It's sort of funny. It's probably the strongest this Jocks room has been in years. And Mike's having a really nice start. You know, you would have thought maybe with, you know, guys like Pratt coming back, Johnny V in there for sure, Dettori in there again, Kimura coming in, there might have been less for someone like Mike Smith, but no, he's had a really nice start to the meet, and he's really picking up some winners.
And I will say, I thought, Barry, you were there in person. You can either agree or disagree with me, but I thought he gave Stiletto Boy the exact ride that horse needed to get in
Absolutely.
Pegasus.
He
Yeah,
rode him
he was-
hard,
he
and he
was-
kept him in the race.
Yeah.
He was on point all day because he had one more. I think it was one more bid. He put
Yes.
a nice
Oh, yeah.
ride on that hung
Mhm.
in there really late in the game, but he just didn't have, he wasn't on super live horses either. So
Yeah.
Isn't it?
that's a testament to how he is as a rider because
Yeah.
And
he
it's
got
funny
horses
because
that were really, a cut below to kind of hang around and hang in there.
and
Yeah.
that would have been probably a critique of Mike's in the last decade or so, is that he gets to ride a lot of the good horses
He's
recently,
riding Cadillacs.
right? And he can go wide, and sometimes maybe he gives up too much ground because he'll wait too late and why. This
The
was
old Zenyatta ride.
Yeah,
I've
and
criticized him for that. plenty of
absolutely, we all have, and this I'm glad that you pointed it out, because you know what, we get caught up in thinking that just because like a good ride needs to be a winning ride. And that is not at all the case.
No.
Like there are many great rides all throughout the day where the horses just aren't good enough. And you give your horse every single chance to win. That, in my opinion, is a good rider, or a rider who puts in a good ride and has a good day. Give yourself every chance. If you're good enough, you're going to probably get lucky in one or two of those races and fall into it. Just keep putting yourself in the right spot. And Mike did that last week, and he's been doing that now for the last 6 weeks or so since this Santa Anita meet opened up. So let's see if Mikey can give Super Renee another really nice ride in race number 4. So let's move to the 5th race for Santa Anita, and that is where Matt has a play in race number 5. Matty, it is a 6 furlong dirt sprint for optional claimers.
Yep.
Talk to us about how you're seeing this one unfold.
Yeah, this one is, strictly a stable dual play, but with Santa Anita, there's some short fields early in the card. Maybe you have to spend up, so you're going to have to find a really inexpensive horse in some spots. And so I went to the 6 here, Grayson Sun, 15 to 1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $500. There's a reason I kind of like this horse. First of all, it's only a 7-horse field, so this horse doesn't need to really get past many horses to bring you some positive points in stable duel. The other thing is there's 3 horses. The 3, the 4, and the 5 are all coming in from a layoff. The 3 has never run a speed figure anywhere close to what the 6 has, so I'm not sure how the 3 is at 6 to 1 and the 6 is at 15 to 1. But that being said, the 6, I think, makes a lot of sense here from an underneath standpoint, because yes, this horse is stepping up in class, but the last couple of times out, those speed figures hold up in this field pretty well. This is a horse that broke his maiden going 6 furlongs on the dirt. And so I just think we're getting back to a good distance for this horse, who broke his maiden actually against open competition, has run against open competition a few times before, rather than just in the state bred circuit. Like I said, I just think this is an underneath play at 15 to 1. I think this horse will have a decent effort. And the other thing is there should be a little bit of pace in this race for him to run at. So I just like the way that this kind of shapes up. And it's more about not having a ton of confidence in the 3, 4, and 5 horses coming off the layoff, and thinking, if this 6 can get past 3 or 4 of them, suddenly you're sitting 3rd or 4th. And at 15 to 1 for only $500, that's a pretty good play.
No monsters in this race at all. You start eliminating runners, and it gets you to a horse like Grayson Sky, who you can expect a very honest performance sprinting on the dirt at this level, get a little pace to run at. That's the 6. Grayson Sun will only cost you $500 in your stable dual lineup at that 15 to 1 morning line. So that gives you lots of wiggle room here with a runner like Grayson Sun. That is in race number 5. Let's move to race number 6 right next door. I have one here, and then I believe Barry has one in race number 7.
Yep,
and race number 8. We'll both have one in the 8th race. In the 4th race, we'll go 1 mile and an 1/8 on the, in the 6th race, we'll go 1 mile and an 1/8 on the turf. This is an optional 80 non-winners of 2. I don't think there's that much speed in this race, honestly. Just kind of going through the field, you have Freedom Lass, who's a little bit more of a tracker, TikTok famous, not really going to be one of right on the front end. You have Ballet Dancing, who can sit. You have the 5 Buzz of New York, more off the pace. Dramatizer got the lead last time. Not exactly a horse who's fast at all. They were crawling in that race. Kuora is not fast. And then you have Macadamia, who might be able to get forwardly placed and show a little bit of speed. But I really like the 4, Gold for Kitten, stretching out. This is a 5-year-old mare who, when if you notice the races when she goes longer, she's much more forwardly placed. And she's actually won races right on the lead. She was in the Virginia Oaks when she finished third, and then she was up in a stakes race at Woodbine. Following that, we've seen her only 4 times since the start of 2022. 2 of them were sprint races, and then we have 2-mile races. The issue is just the layoff lines. You know, she was off for a few months. She comes back in January and February of 2022, and then she's off for almost all of 2022. She shows back up in November. She wins a really good race. She finishes second in a stakes race at Del Mar. Then she's off for a couple months. She shows back up down the hill. And when she comes down the hill on January the 13th, you know what? She just didn't get away all that well. And they were flying. Look at how fast they went. 42-3 in that race. They were absolutely flying. She's going to put 2 starts together, and she's going to stretch back out from 6.5. I think it's a good spot for Gold for Kitten. I hope they get really aggressive with her. I think she's naturally probably the fastest in this race, and she should be in the top flight, sitting second or third at least. Give me Gold for Kitten. I hope they get aggressive. Love to see her right on the front end in here. Gold for Kitten in race number 6. She is 6-1. And again, we're right on that $5,000 par for Stable Duel. Lots of 6-1 shots today as we move from race number 6, Gold for Kitten and John Sadler, to race number 7 as Bailout Barry has a nice little traditional late double for us in races 7 and 8. Barry, Calbred, optional claimers. Talk to us about this mile race in the 7th.
Yeah, this is a really interesting race because the 2 inside horses, Rose Harbor and Tecumseh Caroline, I do not like at all. And they're 5-2 and 2-1 on the morning line. And you have the 2 who's 2-1 coming off a maiden win that hasn't run since December 3rd. And then you have Rose Harbor, who broke his maiden at Turfway on the synthetic, and this horse has never run on traditional dirt. So there's some holes here in the 2 favorites, and I thought you could find a horse that's not so much you know, on the radar, but it looks like it could be a lone speed situation with the horse I do like, which is number 6, Starship Defiant. The outside horse, Lado, well, I can't even say that. I'm not even going to try. The 7 horse has kind of like fake speed here, especially coming off of the turf onto the main track. I don't think that horse is going to have the same kind of punch, especially early. Maybe later, you know, but not early. And then the only other horse that shows any speed is the 4, and that horse doesn't look as fast enough on paper than the 6.
Starship Defiant stretching back out. What you were talking about with the 7 too, I think it was La Dume Etoile, who
There you go. Frenchie.
The opening day race, it was weird. They just sort of ended up on the lead, and then Dettori kept going with them. And I think last time, because they were on the lead and won, they went back to it again. But I completely agree with you. I don't think this horse is nearly as fast as she might look on paper with some of her recent races.
Right. And that's kind of my thing is, you know, like it's a little bit deceiving when you look at all these horses collectively. But it looks like the 6, and then you see who won on that day on the 7 was Dettori.
Yeah.
He ends up on the 6 here in this spot.
Yep.
And I think, you know, the trip is going to be right for him. Is, you know, whether he's good enough is the key, but I'm willing to gamble on that at 5-1.
I agree. Starship Defiant, Dettori trying to get aggressive on this one. Starship Defiant, the number 6 in race number 7. So I will close it out. Matt, you got one here. Yeah,
I got one in here as well. And I agree with Barry about the 6. I think makes a lot of sense. And I went to the 3 though, because I also don't like the 2 favorites in this race. I went to the 3 Busker Alley, 12-1 on the morning line for Phil D'Amato, only going to cost you $750 in Stable Duel. And I go to the fact that this horse turned in her best effort going a mile in the dirt, and they somehow have never gotten back to that.
Yeah.
And they're sprinting her on the dirt. They're putting her on the turf at a mile. And this horse, again, best career effort was going long on the dirt. And now we finally get back to going long on the dirt. Third back in a form cycle. I actually like that it's a smaller field because this horse can give herself too much to do. So the fact it's only a 7-horse field, if you look through, she performs better in smaller field sizes generally. And so the fact that her running style is a little bit more coming from the back, 7 horses, not going to have to weave through quite as much for a barn I really trust with Phil D'Amato. $750. I feel like this is a solid underneath play. This is a race because there's only 8 races on the card. You're going to need to double up in 2 races. This is one where I absolutely am going to be using the 3-6 together in this particular race. Try to catch the exacta.
Busker Alley for Matt, and the number 6 Starship Defiant for Barry. And Matt says maybe you use them both in this race in your stable dual lineup because you'll have to do that a couple times.
One thing to be said for why this horse hasn't been back at that trip is I think those races aren't filling.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah, it's not. Yeah. Yeah.
So you might be onto something here as far as,
just not even getting the opportunity.
To the right spot. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, look at the race on September 1st. And since then, not a bad effort sprinting, but it makes sense because the horse is too far back. It has a little bit too much to do. And then is off for a few months, tries the turf going long, but just maybe not quite as good on the grass. And then comes back to a sprint on the dirt. Now we get back to that career best mile dirt trip. And let's see what we can do with Busker Alley at 12-1. We'll close it out in race number 8. I believe Barry and I both have a runner in this 8th race going a mile on the turf. Calbreds. Barry, talk to us. Who are you looking at in the 8th race?
I think we might be on the same horse because, we've talked about this trainer, quite a bit over the past couple years. But yeah, this is state bred maiden special weight going a mile on the turf. I ended up on number 3, Bronco Nagurski.
Bronco Nagurski. Okay, so we are on the same one, but Bronco Nagurski and Miotti are very, very live in this runner. Sell us on the 3 here, Barry.
Yeah, I mean, the horse only has 2 starts. One was on the dirt where did absolutely no running, and then a nice, much improved effort first time on the grass, going 5.5 at Santa Anita on January 7th. And the comment stepped slow, lost third. I mean, if you've ever watched this race, you can see that this horse was right there. I mean, for all intents and purposes, did finish third, but we'll actually. Oh, there you go. He brought it up there. So
got the 9 in this race.
Yes, he's the 9.
Yeah, and he is, missing the hole from the outside.
Right,
and in this type of a turf sprint like that, when you're not forwardly placed, you're in some trouble. And this is not a bad effort at all. Like, he's a little wide, he's a little slow, but as it shows, he will come running. And this is a 5 furlong race, so there's plenty of expected improvement, and just expecting this one to be more forwardly placed, stretching out.
Yeah, stretching out is the key here. I like him going longer rather than this kind of trip, and I think this horse, got something out of this run, despite not starting well, not getting the best of starts. And I think this is what this horse wants to do all along, is to go long on the turf. He finishes up strong. You see him in the middle of the course there, and he gives a pretty good effort for first time on the grass, and I liked it enough to kind of give him the nod here because everybody else doesn't really look all that great. There's not too much speed, so I don't gather he's going to be too far back. I mean, the horse that really you might want to key in on is Workday, the 9 horse on the outside, because he might shake loose here, and that could be dangerous, in general. But I think Bronco Nagurski is not going to be too far off. And if anybody, with these kind of horses, younger horses in a maiden special weight going long, the pace tends to heat up a little bit. And I think Bronco Nagurski's running style will fit perfectly here because I don't think he's going to be on the lead. He's going to stalk, be in the kind of the second flight and get first run. And I think that's the optimal trip.
Yeah, he had a nice Dam too. The Sunday Rules was a very good one. She was a 9-time winner in her 13 starts. She did win on the grass as well as being a stakes winner on the dirt. She had some quality to her, no doubt about it. The one that I looked at in here, Barry, is the 6-horse JD's Rude Boy. Now, we were sort of talking about this a little earlier. He is a Calbred who faced Open Company in both starts up at Golden Gate. So both races at Golden Gate, he's in with maiden special weight with Open Company. Both of his races are on the synthetic, and the debut was very good. He came back in his second start, didn't quite get the trip that he needed, and he regressed a little bit. But now he's going to move into a new barn. He's going to go 2 sprints to a route, and he's going to try the turf. His dam, Nora's Kitten, she only raced on the turf twice. She finished third in one of those starts, so she showed a little something on the turf. And then we see that there is some turf pedigree here. 2 winning turf siblings. So 3 horses tried the turf. One of them only went one time on the turf. So it's really tough to get a feel for if this horse wasn't a turf horse. And the other 2 are turf winners. We have a multiple winner here, and we have another winner here. So the dam showed the ability on the grass, finishing third. We have 2 siblings who showed some grass ability, and we have a horse who's raced both times against Open Company. 2 sprints to a route, stretches out. And as Barry mentioned, there's not that much speed in here. I think this horse stretching out from the sprint races will just be a lot more forwardly placed. So JD's Rude Boy, the number 6 in race number 8, is the play for me at 8-1. Right next to shout out LeBron James. Like this one, huh? That's a great name. That is a great name.
Well,
LeBron.
you see on the 6, you see that this horse is, has Kitten's Joy in the
Yep.
pedigree here,
And
you
Curlin. This
gotta
horse is
think that it's got to have a little bit of turf potential.
absolutely. So JD's Rude Boy, 8-1. Barry gave out a price play in here also with the 3 at 6-1. And hey, at least the Lakers got a win yesterday. I needed that one, man. I needed that one. There were too many of those close games this year. Poor LeBron's on the floor going, "What happened? What happened?" We've seen the memes and we've seen the gifs. That is race number 8 to close it out at Santa Anita for Friday. So let's turn the page from Friday to Saturday. Matt, as I pull up Saturday Gulfstream, let's remind everybody what contest and what options we have. It's a big Saturday. I mean, we just had a Pegasus card, and now we have 5 more graded stakes races on the card at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. So big weekend right after another big weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the Holy Bull card, and with the cancellation of the New York racing over the weekend because of the inclement weather, a lot more people are probably going to be playing Gulfstream Park. And so in Stable Duel, there's 2 Saturday contests at Gulfstream Park. There's a $5 single entry game with a $350 pot and a $50, the Holy Bull game, a $50 entry, $6,000 pot. 3 maximum entries allowed. And so that's what we got going on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. And then at Santa Anita on Saturday, we have a $20 double up as well as a $25 entry, $1,500 pot, maximum of 3 entry game.
And I believe at Gulfstream on Saturday, both of you are in the opener. So, Barry, why don't you talk to us about how you're seeing race number 1 play out at Gulfstream on Saturday?
Yeah, this is a wide open race, I think. You have horses like on the outside in the 10 and 11, Cheers for Kitten, Stormy Victory, that look okay, but I mean, for what it's worth, this is a 20,000 non-winners of 2. So, you got these 2 horses coming, just breaking their maiden for the first time. They're probably going to get a lot of play. And then you have the rest of the field that is kind of weather beaten. They took a long time to break their maiden, finally into a spot where they think they can handle it. And I ended up on number 4, Invective, with Jose Ortiz, which I thought was really, really interesting that he ends up on this horse. One of the things that I do like is that this horse was off since October 14th, came back January 5th, and ran a speed figure that was comparable to his best efforts, which to me spells a little bit of improvement on the horizon and on the turf, no less. The I really think that horse needed that last race, and on the slight drop from 35,000 down to 20 should make a huge difference, along with the post position. In that race, the horse was in the 11th spot, going 7.5. Now into the 4th spot, rider upgrade, in my opinion, because I think Jose Ortiz rides that course better than pretty much everyone. I think I even said this last time I was on here with you. I don't remember the last time Jose Ortiz has won a traditional dirt race at Gulfstream, and I still need to look up that stat, but I would rather him on the turf than on the dirt, and he ends up in this spot on a horse that seems like he might be a little bit live.
Invective is 15-1 to kick off the card at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Maddie, who are you looking at in this opener?
Well, I think just to underline how wide open this race is, it's funny. I was talking with Ashley Mayu of FanDuel yesterday about this race. I gave out my top pick to my top value play in this race. She gave out her top pick, top value play in this race. Barry just gave out a pick, all 5 different picks, by the way. So I think, this one is wide open. So I feel like if you're playing a horizontal sequence, this is a spread. This is more of a pace play for me, but I ended up on the 2, impulsiveness. And I just, looking at this race, I think we could see a pretty hot pace. I think the 9 really wants to go to the lead. The 10 wants to go to the lead. The 7's going to be pretty forward. The 4 is going to be up there, I think, in and around the vicinity. And so as a result, I ended up on the 2, impulsiveness at 6-1 on the morning line, $5,000 on Stable Duel. This is a horse that admittedly did not run well last time out, but you look at those previous really 4 efforts, all very solid and at a much higher level. And just lost at this kind of non-winners of 2 level 2 back while posting a 76 buyers. This is a horse that's going to come running late. This is the horse that has the best late pace projection speed figures in the field. And so if there is that hot pace up front, which I imagine there will be, I think the 2 is going to come running. And it should be pointed out that Weinball, Cheryl Weinball, the trainer, really good off the claim. Obviously this year, a very limited sample size, 33%, but over the last 5 years, she's 26% off the claim. So this is a very capable trainer who has a horse who, ran one bad race and I think can get this horse right back on the right track. And so I'm going to go with the number 2, impulsiveness, at 6-1 in race 1.
Number 2, 6-1, 5,000 in your Stable Duel lineup. Couple plays for Barry and for Matt right off the bat in the opener on Saturday at Gulfstream. Barry's got a couple more later in the card, but Maddie, you have another one earlier in the card. Actually, you have a couple in race number 3 that you wanted to look at. Couple different possible options. Talk to us about this 6.5 furlong dirt race.
Yeah, made an optional claimer, $40,000 for 4-year-olds and up. And this is one where I like 2 horses that are right next to each other, the 4 and the 5. So Sutton Breeze is the 4 at 6-1 on the morning line. And this is a horse for Ralph Nix, who we talked about earlier with Lionel Reyes up, who we also talked about earlier. And I mentioned how Nix is very good at getting horses ready out of the gate. But, just to underline that point, 21% winning first-time starters. The other thing I really like about this horse is there's a lot of precocity in the pedigree. The sibling broke maiden first time out. So the dam's shown that her offspring can win first time out. Cajun Breeze is producing 20% first time starters, 22% first time starters for horses that are 3-year-olds and up. This is a 4-year-old gelding, but they've taken their time with it. This is a breeder owner sort of a situation. They've taken their time with this horse, which I respect. I just think this is a very gettable field for a trainer who has, gets them ready off, first time out, and for a pedigree that suggests that there's going to be some precocity and the ability to run well first time out. So definitely like this 4. And then the 5 right next door, 8-1 on the morning line, Chief Rocca. This is 8-1. Like I said, only going to cost you $3,000. This horse ran last time out for the first time in a little over a year. And while you might look at the running lines and see fourth by 13 lengths and not think much, the winner of that race, Bourbon Ready, won by 10 and a quarter lengths. So essentially, this horse was kind of right around everybody
Yeah.
else behind him. So if you take Bourbon Ready out, then suddenly this horse's last effort doesn't look so bad. Like I said, that was the first time out in over a year. So now we're looking second time out. We keep Tyler Gaffleone aboard, which I really like. I just thought that first effort was pretty good for a leg stretcher, and now you should see this horse progress a little bit more. 8-1. I just think there's plenty of room for improvement with a jockey I really trust at Gulfstream Park, and I just like I said, good value. I think at 8-1.
Two different options in race number 3 for you, as Matt's giving you plenty early on in the card. And Matt, I believe you have one more in the 5th race to talk to us about at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, which is a mile on the turf and a good looking field here. Tell us who you'll be tossing in your stable dual lineup here.
Yeah, this is a nice maiden special weight, 84,000, 1 mile on the turf for 3-year-olds, and it is a nice looking field. I ultimately ended up, and there's a few horses that are coming out of that Mooncat race.
Yeah.
The 4, who I really like as my up top play, is coming out of that race, and the 9, Jamestown at 8-1, is coming out of that race as well. So I think that's a very live race. We talked about the Duden, Colorado race with Mooncat earlier. Those are races to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Ultimately, for value, I ended up going to the number 2 horse, and this is a first-time North American starter for I believe it's for
Brian Lynch.
Brian Lynch. Yes, I was getting Brendan Walsh and Brian Lynch mixed up in my head. But yeah, for Brian Lynch. And this is a horse that seems to have really taken to the turf at Palm Meadows quite effectively. I mean, the works have been really solid, really consistent. And Lynch, in a very limited sample size, tends to get horses to fire coming out first time in North America. This just feels like a horse that's run against some really good company over in Europe and is coming over. And again, you look at these works, they're every week, and it just keeps getting better. You see a bullet work in there. You see a 1:03.5 for a long work. You see a 47-1/4 for a long work leading up to this race. Horses getting Lasix for the first time. A lot of times we talk about that's why horses get shipped over here to North America, because they need Lasix. But this horse's efforts over in Europe were very solid. I mean, 3 straight seconds. I mean, maybe you say this horse is a little bit of a hanger, but I like the idea of getting Lasix, coming over, just taking to the turf very well. 6-1, only going to cost you $5,000.
Really seems to be taking to the surroundings, as you mentioned. Seems training very well in the mornings there. That's race number 5 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park.
And now I'm going to shut up and let other people talk.
Oh, now you're not. Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, now
I got like 3 straight races. I'm like, Jesus.
You got one more coming. Don't worry. Don't worry.
I know.
So we had the Matt's, moment to shine right now. That now it's done. So now we can all jump back into the. Now we can jump back into the show. We had our win place show for a 5-minute tangent on this weekend in Stable Duel as we dive back in race number 6 is a horse I wanted to look at. This is a race where it's the grade 3 Swale, and Super Chow will be a heavy favorite in here, but Super Chow is not the type of horse who you're going to want to use in a Stable Duel lineup at 6-5. And with Super Chow, we're going to start to worry once these distances get a little bit farther with her. I say her with him. I continue to wonder if he's going to really want to keep going farther and farther. Now, the horse who I was pretty impressed with the debut was Araj. I really like the way this horse won in the slop first time out. And if you'll just sort of watch the start of the race, this horse drew the rail. And because of that, they just asked for speed and they sort of shoved this horse out of the gate. I don't think he's going to be on the lead in here. And I think that'll be a major positive. Look, because he was on the rail, they just got really aggressive with him and they wanted to make sure he got up to the front and didn't get stuck in traffic there. I don't think they're going to have that same trip. And he dealt with some pressure here. And what you'll see is like late in this race, he's a little bit green. He's kind of drifting out. But this is on an off track, remember. So it doesn't really bother me when a horse may be out in the middle of the racetrack if it's a sloppy track, because sometimes it's just a little bit harder to get your footing. And this was a dominant win first time out of the box for a horse who was 8-1. I was pretty impressed with it overall. And just sort of looking at the way the rest of the race shapes up, I think this horse can sit a good spot, sit like second or third in here. Looking at the one General Jim, he had legitimate trouble last time out. He's going to be behind that wall of early speeds. Then you have Keanu, bro. Keanu, what's up, bro? He's going to be forwardly placed. Two of a Kind was going to be forwardly placed. King Sparrow is going to be forwardly placed, and Super Chow is going to be forwardly placed. I would love if Irad can just take Iraj back just a bit and let him sit right behind that group of runners and get a really nice trip in here. So I'm going to carve out the number 4, Iraj, at 6-1 on the morning line. This will be right at that $5,000 par for stable duel. Iraj, the number 4 in race 6, which is the grade 3 Swale. So that's the first of 5 graded stakes races on the card at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Barry will have a couple plays in races 10 and 11. Matt will have another play in race 11. I'll pop one in race number 9 real quick. This is the Kitten's Joy. And we had to take a look at this race real quick because this is the Dude in Colorado and Mooncat race. So here's our friend Mooncat, who's 15-1 and is probably in a little bit tough. This is not an easy spot. It's going to be a good spot for Major Dude. Major Dude came off of a short break last time out in his first start back from the Breeders' Cup, and he was chasing Candidate, and Candidate just went gate to wire, and Major Dude looked like a horse who was chasing a lone speed horse in their first start in a few months. I mean, what's cool about this race is you can make cases for a lot of runners in here. There's nothing wrong with Lights at Broadway, whose turf debut last time out was very good. He was chasing a lone speed winner in Ari Gold. There's nothing wrong with Dude in Colorado, who he just got the lead last time out on the synthetic, but we know he's fine on the turf from that turf debut, which came back live where he finished third. We all liked Congruent in a couple of these races, thinking he could get the trip. Angela Herman, who joined me yesterday to talk about these Gulfstream races, she liked Boppy O. It's just a fun race where you can honestly make cases for many in here. The horse who I think has a little bit of a shot is the 2 Suzak, who just completely missed a break in the U.S. debut. So let's think about this for Suzak. He's the number 6 in this race that we're watching right here. This is his first start in a few months, his first start in North America, and completely misses the break, spots the field. He gets squeezed back out of that spot, and then he's going like wide into the turn. So look at the first quarter mile this horse runs. He gets crossed over on, then right here, he's wide up into the turn. They got to grab a hold of him and then try to move down to the inside. And then right here, when they do, he runs up into some traffic. So bad start, wide. You're running up into some traffic. You're grabbing a hold. It's just not a very good first quarter mile. All that happened in the first quarter. And on top of that, he's chasing lone speed in his first start in North America. I just think there were a ton of things up against that horse in that particular spot. Oh, and keep in mind, Joel, who's really struggling, was also up that day. Now, we keep talking about this, right? Like, it's got to happen some point. And it's not like I'm playing this just for assuming Joel, but this is a horse who a month ago was probably 5-1. And now you're starting to get more value on these horses because he's in such a bad stretch right now. And he actually fits this horse really well with the running style, with what you would expect. I think Suzak in his second start in North America, I mean, this horse got action. He was only 7-2 in that race if you were playing him off of his form overseas in France. And I think he's just going to be a little bit sharper in here. The key of the race is going to be, does he get the pace to run at? I don't know if Candidate will get things just like he did. He is the horse to catch from the inside, and I think he will dictate things. I expect Major Dude to try to keep it even closer to him than he was last time out. I expect Dude in Colorado to be forwardly placed in here also, so that may help. And even Boppy O to the outside has shown some speed when he won the With Anticipation and has been close sprinting on the dirt, not far out of it. So I'm looking at the 2 Suzak, just putting a line through his last race, and I'm giving him another shot back right here. He is 8-1 on the morning line, 3,000 in your stable dual lineup, and another weekend where it's only funny because we know how good these guys are, where Joel and Flavian, it's like the same thing happened again last weekend. They keep going through these weekends where it's like, 1 for
Where are they?
12 or
Where
1
are
for
they?
15, and they're like all 5-1 or less horses.
The
You
thing
know?
about the thing about Flavian that's just mind-boggling is that he's got like an 83 or 86 races. He's got like 23 seconds. Like he's just on the wrong end of so much of that. And
Just
whereas Rosario is just I
Just
he's
mean,
not
he's
bad.
out
really
on an
close.
island sometimes.
Bad.
I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
where
Bad.
Joel is right now.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
He's been bad.
He's really
Yeah.
not close right now
but
either. So
but he's so talented, and I this is also one where sometimes I like to, if I am going to go with Joel in this meet, it's like you try to match up the horse's running style with what he likes to do anyway.
which
So
is this,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Take the horse
Yep.
back and just sort
Yep.
of let's get one run. Let's just let's just be patient and hope the
Yep.
race comes back to us.
Yep.
And I think
Yep.
with Suzak here in the Kitten's Joy, that should be the plan, the game plan in race number 9. So that's the 9th race. But the 10th race is the grade 3 forward gal. And I believe, Barry, you have a play in the forward gal, which is right next door. I thought this is a fun addition of the forward gal, just sort of looking at the amount of horses that I think you can make like a legitimate case for in here. Not a whole lot wrong with the horse like the 2, Twice as Sweet. Atomically was only 6-1 in the Breeders' Cup. In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Like she got action in that race. You have Apropos, who stepped up and I thought was pretty impressive at 15-1. Lynx is very, very honest and could get the trip in here. Both the 7 and 8 were extremely impressive in their last races, as was the 9, Positano Sunset, who could sit a beautiful trip and lost to a couple nice next out winners. I think a pretty nice race, Barry. Like lots of competitive horses, lots of directions to go in here. How do you see this thing playing out?
Yeah, this is a really tough field of fillies. But I know we've talked about it before about horses coming off of Breeders' Cup races, especially when they don't win. They tend to underperform first time out back after those kind of
Obligatory.
races. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, obligatory is just up against it totally with her running style, and
Yep.
that's just a horse is tough to play on top in a lot of different scenarios. But that being said, I think there's quite a bit of speed in this race. For a race that's 7 furlongs. Again, like I was saying before, you have these younger horses, kind of going a good distance, and usually the paces heat up a bit because they just aren't really 100% sure how to run yet. And you got horses like Undervalued Asset, who has speed. Red Carpet Ready has speed and gets Louis Saez, who should have him cranked up and out there. Positano Sunset, might want to sit, but I think that one has speed. The 4, the long shot, Arella Star. Even
Gonna go.
atomically has shown speed at,
Yeah.
at a long time, at one point, and probably is better off, with that kind of trip. And that leaves me with number 2, Twice as Sweet. I think this horse is on the improve, should get a great trip. Has a bit of experience here with 5 lifetime starts, 2 of which were in stake races, which kind of puts that one to me a little bit ahead of some of these others.
Yep.
Uh,
She chased
even
the
though-
lone speed winner last time out too, a horse named Dazzling Blue, who's 2 for 2 and just got the lead and couldn't get
and
past.
that horse wasn't losing that day.
So think
So-
about, right, like the way that we're projecting this race to be totally different than that race, where this one should get the type of trip that she didn't last time.
Right, and I like the post position where she can kind of see what's going on in front of her,
Yeah.
and doesn't need to be too far back. And I think this is a really good trip for this horse on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Twice as Sweet is a really nice pick 4, pick 5 type of horse. Lynx could get a good trip in here too, for some of the same reasons that we're talking about. Like Lynx loses to Atomically, but think about it. Lynx was actually favored over Atomically in that race back in October, and will probably get the benefit of taking back and getting some pace to run at in here. And you mentioned Positano Sunset. To me, the trip for her is key. Like I like her a little bit better than the horses who are inside, because I think she might be able to sit a little bit, like you were saying. And she showed that she can come from off the pace a bit. In her debut, she hooks Pretty Mischievous. There were 3 next out winners in that race. Pretty Mischievous is 3 for 4 and just came back to win the Untappable. And then in her second start,
Julia Shining.
Julia Shining, who's really, really nice too. And Julia
Malafat's
Shining,
sister. Yeah.
who's 2 for 2 for Todd Pletcher. So you lose to those two fillies in your first two starts, and then you come back in your third start, you show improvement, and you continue to take a step forward on the buyer scale. And, you know, now she's drawn pretty well to the outside. I also like that she's got 6.5, 6.5, and 7 kind of compared to the two to her inside who don't have a 7 for a long race. Like Barry was saying, some of these younger fillies, that difference between 6 and 7 can be quite a bit. So the Forward Gal grade 3 event, race number 10. We have race number 11. It's the Sweetest Chant, which is right next door, a mile and a 16th. And Maddie, I believe you have one in here to take a look at.
I think we might be on the same horse.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the 3. I don't know.
That's where I'm on, of course.
Okay. All right.
Of course we're on the
Mally
same horse.
Moo. Yeah, oh, of course.
Mally
Of course we're on the
Moo.
same horse.
And
Yeah,
so
this horse came motoring after us.
this
terrible
horse,
start.
if you want to pull up the replay, this will only
that
take
says
about
it all.
3 seconds. You want to see a horse miss a break. Good Lord.
Just walked out of there.
Now I can hear Chuck Simon going, it's going to happen again. But I look at the 7 here, which is Mally Moo. And like I said, as soon as they break, you're going to realize, you know, this horse just was up against it from the get-go.
And they're off.
And they're off, except for Mally Moo.
Except, yeah.
Far outside the
Just
light.
completely
walked out of the
Which
gate.
isn't that
I
one
don't
of
think
those
it could
things-
get any worse.
No,
Like
and
that's why I'm saying,
right.
like, there's no way that horse could break any worse than that.
No.
This time.
And yet, for a track that we all agree has been pretty favoring of front end speed, Mally Moo closed like a freight train and passed everybody except for the eventual winner, Juniper Marshmallow. But I mean, just looked, like I said, that was a really impressive performance, I thought, given what happened. This is a horse that broker maiden overseas, comes over, you know, was in the Joseph O'Brien barn, obviously, very trusted barn, and then goes to Jack Sisterson, who puts her immediately in a stakes race. What we just saw, I think the more distance, the better for this horse. I think the way that that first race played out, just, you know, you can almost draw a line through it in some ways. And I just, a 10-1 in the morning line for only $1,000 in Stable Duel, this horse makes a lot of sense.
She might be a monster, honestly, this filly. Like and it might take like another race or two, but I think you cannot leave her out of any of your exotics because I'm expecting a wicked late rally from her in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's just mowing people down here after a bad start, and, you know, gets up for second. I mean,
and the horse who beat her had like a 4-length jump on her that day. And then there's our friend Stephanie's Charm on the outside, which is what I am. I'm Stephanie's Charm myself for Stephanie. As she walks out the door right now, she's looking at me, rolling her eyes like, what the hell is this guy smoking? You know, but that's a very, very live one, and a horse who I think if you're playing any type of late exotics today, you got to throw in Mally Moo on your tickets. I think Mally Moo should be more like a 5-1 shot in here. And I expect a big, big performance from Mally Moo. So that is.
I mean,
go ahead.
See, Stephanie's Charm came out of that race. I had Stephanie's Charm that day.
I remember that.
At
You've had her the last 2 times at big prices when
she's just, her running style just gets the best of her. But I think this Mally Moo horse might want to be a little bit closer and has more ability than Stephanie's Charm, and I think she's the one. Or he's the one, right?
No, she's the one.
She's the one. I had it right. Yeah, I thought it was.
You had it right.
Don't second guess yourself, Barry.
Yeah.
You're right.
You had it right. There we go.
Confidence.
So that was race number 10. Let's get to race number 11 at Gulfstream Park. Do we all have one in this 11th race?
Or that was race 11.
Or that was race 11. Oh, yeah, that was race 11. Excuse me. That was race 11. So we would finish up with the 12th race, which is the Holy Bull, just to kind of take a little peek at this one. I'll probably be playing this horse in Stable Duel. I wasn't going to give him out as a big Stable Duel release, but I absolutely love the 8-horse Rocket Can in this spot. I'm going to single Rocket Can in some exotics to try to close out. Because to me, it looks like on paper, it's Rocket Can and Cyclone Mischief. Like, I just think those two kind of stand out head and shoulders above. And I think Cyclone Mischief, that buyer might be a little phony last time out just because he kind of got a nice trip and he moved right into it. I like the fact that he sat, but kind of after those two, I didn't like the Mucho Macho Man. And we have 4 horses that come out of that race. Like, I just wasn't impressed with the horses who come out of there. So I sort of eliminated that race. And now I'm kind of down to Cyclone Mischief and Rocket Can as my 2. And I think you might get a little bit better value with Rocket Can, who's kind of, stepping forward, moving into this race in like a nice pattern. If you look at the form and some of the horses he ran into. So Instant Coffee, we saw Instant Coffee come back and win the Lecomte. And Confidence Game was 3rd in that race. So the two horses that he's recently lost to came back to finish 1-3 in the Lecomte. And look at the improvement that Rocket Can has shown in his 2 races going long, right? Since they stretched him out, speed figures pump up 20 points, right? Just huge growth and improvement in those. And he's been able to sit a little bit closer. He moved into the lead last time out, but Confidence Game was just loose on the front end, was able to keep going. And Rocket Can is the play for me. Did you guys have any type of opinion in this one, Barry? You were looking like I was smoking some good stuff out here in Southern California. Who do you like in this
on
one?
The sticky icky with the dog.
No seeds, no stems.
But yeah, I like Cyclone Mischief a lot in here, only because I think this horse kind of figured it out last time. And you get this critique of horses like Cyclone Mischief who win perfect trip races. But I think this horse makes his own luck. And I think he's going to get another good trip. The only thing that deterred me a little bit from Rocket Can is that Louis Size goes to the 6 instead of staying there, and I was just kind of curious as to why.
And that is very interesting, right? I mean, it's not quite as worrisome because Alvarado is
right. He's just
the,
as good.
the Mott guy too, but you're right. Like it's not positive when he was aboard the horse who was a good second, like coming off of a career best effort, and he chooses to go to a horse that he's never been on before, Legacy Isle. So yeah, we don't really always know the stories, but that's absolutely something worth mentioning there.
That's the only reason I hesitated with that horse, but you're right. It looks like a 2-horse race on paper between the 4 and the 8. And
I think it's those 2, and I'm going to start using that as the Titanic, the Jack Dawson line. He makes his own luck. That's what the guy said to him in Titanic. He says, "All life is a game of luck," and then Cal Hockey comes over and goes, "A real man makes his own luck, Jack." Dawson, and
there you go.
So that's going to be like the Titanic line. I like that, when the horses can make their own luck, as the sniper says with Cyclone Mischief. So let's shift over to Santa Anita as we finish up our stream at Santa Anita. And I've got a couple there for Santa Anita for Saturday. I don't think we'll be talking about a horse in the Bob Lewis, though, because there's only 4 horses in that race, and you're going to have 6-5, 7, or 7-5, 8-5, and 9-5 on a few of them. So
I was surprised they're actually going to take
running the race
action on that. No, running the race is fine.
But like, it's a betting
taking
race
action, right?
On a race where they're all 4 entities with the same trainer to the same owner. Because honestly, just from a pure gambling standpoint, are like, do they just say, "Hey,
how can you bet it? How can
they're
you bet
all our
it?
horses"?
I don't get it.
Like, do they say, "Hey, they're all our horses. We don't really care what trips they get because it doesn't really matter. Whoever wins is all ours." Or do they really want to just dictate things, right? Oh, hey, we want this to be the Newgate race. You know what I mean? Like, is this the race?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like a workout. Like
how do you know what the intentions are for any of
Yeah.
those horses? You don't know what the intentions are. So it's just like,
I was surprised they're taking action on that.
Completely agree. Just really steer clear of that. It's so hard to get a feel for. As I'm going to look at race 4 on the Santa Anita card, because that's one of the better betting races on the card. It's a fun race.
Yeah.
It's a megahertz. It's a race number 4. You'll go.
One of my favorite horses of all time, by the way.
Such a fun late turn of foot. Yeah. Such a fun late kick. Small filly. Megahertz would come a running. They'll go a mile on the turf in here. So Barry, talk to us about this 4th race. You had one in here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a mile on the turf, which Megahertz was really good at. But we're gonna go to the well and try to channel those Megahertz vibes with number 7 Quattro.
Yes,
yeah,
that's where we're going.
There we go. The lock.
Everybody's got the 7.
The
All
lock
right.
of the week.
There we go.
Yeah, I like the race. Last time Queen Goddess who came out here and did some damage for Michael McCarthy, was in the 10 hole that day. And you see the 3 races prior to the one on New Year's Eve. Really, really good races. And I just think this horse is just on the improve. There's enough speed for this horse to kind of run him down late. And I just like this horse at this price.
You have Queen Goddess who wins the Pegasus last week, and Quattrell is really honest, always shows up, but she's probably a little bit better at this trip, Matt, like a
Yeah.
little bit shorter. That's where her
Yep.
best races have actually been. So I just think it's a really nice spot, and at the value that she is, she feels like a great stable dual play.
Well, you notice Barrios, once he got on the horse, you see she was a little bit closer. And that's what I think is the ideal trip for this horse, to be closer than, if you look at the Del Mar race, July 23rd, that's way too far back. You want to be up, 3-4 lengths of the lead, close enough to be in striking range, because this horse can finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And to Barry's point, I mean, this is horses 6 or 7 in the money at this distance. And it just seems to be a great stable dual play. It's so consistent, to everybody's point. 10 for 13 in the money career. I do think the mile is better. I also noticed there was a little bit of better performances once Barrios took over. So definitely like a lot to like about this horse, I think, in this particular race. And if she can sit kind of mid-pack, but, to Barry's point, maybe 3-4 lengths off, I think that's a perfect trip. And then to go late. So you know what you're going to get from her, which you can't say about every other horse in this field. So I have a lot of respect for what she's going to be able to do there at 8-1.
But not only that, beat Duvet Day, who came back and did some nice work in a stake a couple weeks ago, and then Counterparty Risk. This horse beat in August at Del Mar, who was in the Chad Brown barn, and I saw this horse run at Tampa a couple of times. It's a nice little filly. So this horse has been keeping really good company. So I just think this horse has a good chance. I mean, even if you go way back to 2020, was kind of running behind Javonica, or with and around Javonica.
Buddy.
Gino's getting light in the head.
I was gonna say, that's my gal. That's my gal. Fellas, you both have one in race number 6. Matt, I'm gonna get up for 1 minute. I'll be right back. You play host for a second with race number 6 for the two of you, and then we'll finish up, because I have one in race number 10 that I want to dish out. So you guys get to race number 6. I'll be right back in just 1 second.
Yeah. So now, all right. Now
Commit
it's
a
going to
crime.
be like substitute teacher time. Barry's going to get
He's
all.
like going to rob a bank, and he's like, "Oh, I'll be right back."
So we both like a horse in race 6, which is a 6 furlong flat on the turf, $72,000 allowance for 4-year-old and up fillies and mares. Barry, where did you end up on this one?
I ended up on the 4.
Okay.
Andy Song. I just think that horse has some tactical speed. It doesn't necessarily need the lead, but can take that over if the pace ends up being slow. And it doesn't look like there's much in here as far as pace. I think she can sit a pretty good trip, depending on what goes on. I like the break in the weight a little bit too. That never hurts. And there's really not much to say about this race. They all look kind of the same, other than Annie Song, who shows speed and is a bit tactical at times. But I can't really endorse a horse like Rebel Girl, who shows a little bit of zip early, just breaking the maiden. The foreign horse, second time North America, I don't really like that when they lay them off after their first run. So and the way outside horse is going to have a tough time getting to the lead. So
so you ended up on the 4 in this one, and so I'm on that second time North American horse, the 8, Pearl Glory, and my play for this was interesting in that when I went through, I was surprised at how few horses in this field actually have 6 furlong experience. And this horse is experienced at 6 furlongs, ran her best races at 6 furlongs, and won twice, finished second once. That was early in the career. And maybe you go, this horse may have just been an early bloomer and was, really precocious at 2. And, things just, she's leveled off and she's just not running as well as, the other horses caught up to her a little bit. But I thought getting her back to sprinting, I thought was going to be beneficial. It also should be pointed out, coming over from Europe, she, never kind of dealt with turns before, and then they put her in a 1-2 turn mile race, which I didn't necessarily love. So had a little bit of trouble at the start. Now coming back from the layoff, we've seen this out in California a lot. Some horses will take to the Del Mar turf over the Santa Anita turf. So, we'll see. Maybe the fact that it was at Del Mar, she didn't like that turf for some reason. Maybe she'll run better at Santa Anita. I just thought at 8-1 for only $3,000, not a bad play. I'm with you though, Barry. This is not an overwhelming field.
No.
And so this is one, if you're going to play a horse in this race, save some money. Don't play a favorite in this one at all. You use a horse that's going to, save you a little bit of money in stable duel rather than spending up in this one.
And I love playing Leonard Powell horses. It's funny. You don't really hear me say like very, I don't want to like basic stuff when it comes to handicapping all that much. I try to get like when we're on this show, I try to have a lot of reasons why I like a horse. Sometimes you'll hear someone say something like, Chad Brown, how'd you leave out Chad Brown? Like, what do you mean? Like there's a billion Chad Brown horses and they still lose 75% of the time. And they're still like, and they're all going to be bet at 5-2 or below. I would say something like, I almost always play Leonard Powell.
Play against them. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the types of trainers where I would say something like that would be someone like Leonard Powell, who is always 5-1 or above. And if he wins at like 20% of the time, your ROI is going to be good. Like that's the type of thing that I'm looking at a little bit more than Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz. How'd you leave that one out? Well, because they're on a live horse in every single race that's undervalued. That's how. So
right, you want to make money. You don't want to cash a ticket. You want to make money.
But he's always a barn that in just knowing him, he does a fantastic job with his horses with like limited stock. And so I always know that his horses are probably going to outrun their odds and give us a good run for their money. And it's not like some big national barn that everybody knows. So Pearl Glory for Matty and a couple plays in race number 6 for Barry and for Matt. I will close it out for Bailout Barry. Since both of these fellas were in races 4 and 6, I'm going to move to race number 10, which is the Thunder Road. Our friend Air Force Red, we know what he's going to do. He's going to go very quick early on, and he's going to take him as far as he can go. The horse who I like a little bit in here is the number 10, Dark Shift. Matt, we talked about this on your show, this race a little bit. I think there are a couple very live stable dual plays in this race. Honestly, there are like 3 of them that I would have no problem playing, and Dark Shift is the first one. Dark Shift didn't race from July to October, so he shows back up. He shows up off of a couple-month break, his first start in North America at Keeneland. He's only 4-1 that day. He gets a ton of action, and then he completely misses the break. He gets squeezed back at the start on both sides, and he's dead last early, and he settles at like 11th of 12, and he's chasing a lone speed winner, Street Ready. So his first start in North America, his first start off a few months, he gets crushed out of the gate. He's at the back of the pack, and he's chasing lone speed. But he moves inside. He closes really well that day, and I think it should set him up nicely for this race that seems to be pretty wide open. I have no problem with Dark Shift. I have no problem with, if you like Hit the Road, this is a good price on Hit the Road. He's a grade 1 winner. He's got a ton of class. Matt likes the number 7 a little bit, right, Matty? There goes Harvard.
Yeah. I think that's a horse that, has a little bit of muddied running lines on the turf, but has always shown up and run really well on the turf and has certainly run against great competition in general. So 8-1. This is a race where you're going to be able to get a price because there's a lot of really good horses. I know you mentioned the
Irideo,
6 yesterday
right?
as well. Yeah.
What's wrong with his race is going a mile. He stretches back out to a mile. Look at the Seabiscuit and look at the Del Mar Mile down here and the Wicker. Those races are really good. He was right behind Air Force Red at 50-1. And that was down the hill. If they go a little quicker and he gets the trip, he's certainly capable at a mile going with this group. So I thought on a Saturday card at Santa Anita where there are a couple races that you can't really get to prices. You just can't, honestly, in like 2 or 3 of the races. This is one that you might be able to. Race number 10, the Thunder Road, to close it out. So, fellas, another fun weekend preview show in the books. I hope everyone has a fantastic day out at Gulfstream Park and at Santa Anita today.
Can we
on
rewind
Friday.
for a minute? Can we
Please
rewind for a minute?
Yeah.
Remember my horse got scratched today?
Yeah.
I want to go back to race 8.
Yeah.
And go with number 1, Modern Science, 20-1, wire to wire, 1.5 mile race. Let's go.
I love it.
There we go.
I love it. I love it.
Race 8 today, Modern Science, 20-1 for Barry. So he calls an audible and he gives us Modern Science. Barry Spears, the sniper, he is one of the best dudes that you will find out there on social media. Make sure to give him a follow. Matty is also one of the best dudes. He's also one of the best dressed that you'll find out there too.
Yeah, he is.
So that is fantastic. Matt, next time I come on your show, I'm going to surprise you and I'm going to have the tie on and be completely ready. I think one day the 3 of us should all show up with ties on and like bow ties and everything and just really mess with everyone.
I was going to go with my backwards Eagles cap and like a jersey and try to represent Barry a little bit or something like that.
I kid you not. I think the last time I wore a suit was when I got married.
Awesome. Well, we got to have to find a reason.
And that was 8 years ago.
I gotta have to find a reason one of these days for the sniper at a big event, at a big something where we make a lot of money.
Fantastic.
But guys, always love chatting with you every weekend. Really gets me pumped up and set up for the weekend. Wish everyone the best of luck in all of your wagers. Make sure to head to Stable Duel and load up the app, put some money in there, and fire away all weekend long at Santa Anita and at Gulfstream. Before we go, we say hello and goodbye to Joey Cleveland.
Better, you want to spread your pony, not